Imagine opening your eyes in a world stripped bare of every convenience you've ever known. No roofs to shield you, no light switch to banish the dark, no knife to slice through meat. Just endless wilderness, untamed, unbroken, unforgiving. This was the reality for our ancestors. Long before tools reshaped survival. For millions of years, early humans lived in this raw, merciless environment. Unlike today's predators, lions, tigers, or even wolves, humans weren't born with sharp claws, thick hides, or powerful jaws. We had soft skin, blunt teeth, and fragile frames compared to the beasts around us. And yet, somehow, we survived. But what did survival look like before tools? Let's strip away everything we know and walk alongside our ancient ancestors, back into a time when humans were barely more than clever animals. They woke with the sunrise, often hungry, always wary. Sleep was shallow, broken by the rustle of predators stalking nearby or the cold creeping into their bones. Without fire, nights were long and terrifying, the dark filled with unseen eyes, glowing in the distance. Imagine huddling together, under a tree's tangled roots or inside the shadow of a cave, praying the growl you heard in the night would pass. Survival was not about thriving. It was about making it through one more day. So how did they do it? What instincts, what hidden strengths, allowed our species to endure when so many others vanished into extinction? This chapter sets the stage. We'll explore the raw reality of life without tools. The hunger, the fear, the small victories that meant life instead of death. By the end, you'll see that the story of humanity isn't just about invention. It's about endurance. Without tools, the only weapons early humans had were their own bodies. And let's be honest, compared to nature's champions, we were at a massive disadvantage. No claws to slash with, no fur to shield against the cold, no wings to escape danger. But we had something subtle, something overlooked: endurance. Our bodies were built for persistence. Where a cheetah could sprint, it would collapse from exhaustion if forced to chase for long. Humans, we could keep moving, mile after mile, sweat cooling our bodies in ways no other predator could match. It was this quiet, superpower persistence, hunting, that gave us an edge. Early humans could chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. No spears, no traps, just patience, sweat, and lungs built for the long run. Our senses, too, played their part. Not as sharp as a hawk's eyes or a wolf's nose, but good enough when combined with awareness and cooperation. And our hands, nimble, flexible, capable of grasping and carrying, hinted at a future not yet realized. Still, flesh and bone alone left us exposed. Every step outside shelter was a gamble. And in those fragile bodies, the will to survive had to burn hotter than fear. Picture a storm rolling across the plains. Lightning splits the sky, thunder shakes the earth, and rain pours down in sheets. For a toolless human, exposure wasn't just uncomfortable, it was deadly. Shelter was survival. But how do you find protection without building tools? Our ancestors turned to nature's architecture: caves, hollowed trees, cliffs, and dense thickets. A fallen log could mean safety. A rocky overhang could mean warmth. But these shelters came at a price. Caves might already belong to predators. Hollow trees could be home to stinging insects. Every refuge had risks. Humans learned to read the signs, to test their luck, to retreat when necessary. Over time, they learned to manipulate their surroundings in the simplest ways: dragging branches, piling leaves, pressing grass into bedding. Not yet tools, but the first whispers of creativity. Imagine a hunt with no words. No one shouting, "Go left," or "Watch out." Instead, everything depended on glances, gestures, and instinct. This was life before language. Humans communicated through body language: the tilt of a head, the wideness of eyes, the sudden stillness that meant danger. Sounds, too, carried meaning. A grunt could mean follow. A shout could mean scatter. A cry could mean predator. This pre-language world was rich with unspoken bonds. Imagine a child crying out at night, instantly silenced by a mother's hand over their mouth, not out of cruelty but necessity. One sound too many could bring a predator crashing through the darkness. These primitive communications weren't just survival tactics. They were the seeds of language itself, the first steps toward the spoken world we live in now. Close your eyes and imagine sitting on the ground, stomach gnawing at itself with hunger. There's no fire to roast meat, no pots to boil water, no spices to mask the taste. The question is simple: what can you eat, right here, right now, without dying? For our toolless ancestors, Food was the most urgent and unforgiving challenge. They didn't have the luxury of selection. If you were lucky, you stumbled upon ripe fruit hanging from a branch. Sweet, juicy, a burst of energy that carried you through the day. But most days, luck wasn't so kind. The fruits were bitter. Roots were tough and fibrous. Chewing them left your jaw aching. Some plants burned the tongue or caused cramps, teaching brutal lessons about what was edible and what wasn't. Meat was another story. Without fire, it was raw, slippery, bloody, often scavenged from kills left behind by bigger predators. Picture a group of early humans crouched nervously over the remains of a zebra, while vultures circle overhead and hyenas gather at the edge of sight. Every mouthful carried risk, parasites, bacteria, or worse, an ambush. But hunger rarely gave them time to hesitate. And then there were insects. Today, many of us shudder at the thought, but to early humans, they were lifesavers. Ants, termites, beetle grubs, high in protein, abundant, and surprisingly nutritious. Imagine prying apart a rotten log and finding it crawling with larvae. To us, it's revolting. To them, it was dinner. What about eggs? Another gift of nature. Stumbling on a bird's nest meant a feast. Soft shells were cracked open, yolks swallowed raw. The taste rich and fatty, a rare treasure in a lean world. But the danger never stopped. Bitter roots could be toxic. Mushrooms could kill as quickly as they nourished. Every bite was a gamble, and trial and error cost lives. Yet slowly, painfully, humans built knowledge, which berries to avoid, which insects to eat, which carcasses weren't too far gone. Food wasn't just fuel. It was survival, luck, and wisdom passed down through generations. And in this struggle, the human stomach learned resilience, preparing us for the day fire would transform our diets forever. If hunger was constant, danger was relentless. Our ancestors lived not as kings of the food chain but as prey, slow-footed, fragile creatures, surrounded by predators built for killing. Picture the African savanna 2 million years ago. Tall grass sways in the wind. Silence falls. Then movement. A lion, massive and silent, crouches low, muscles rippling under its golden fur. For early humans, this was the nightmare of daily life. And lions were only the beginning. Saber-toothed cats prowled with teeth longer than your hand. Packs of giant hyenas, far larger than the ones we know today, laughed their eerie laughter as they closed in on scavengers. Even crocodiles, lurking in rivers, could snatch a human as easily as an antelope. What chance did our ancestors have against such monsters? Not strength, not speed. Their only hope was vigilance. Constant, unrelenting WATCHFULNESS. Imagine a group moving across open grassland. They don't walk casually. They move in tight groups, eyes scanning the horizon. Every sound matters. Every shadow is suspect. A sudden rustle in the grass, and hearts pound, muscles tense, ready to flee. Fear wasn't weakness. It was survival. Fear kept humans alive. The slightest hesitation, the smallest mistake, could mean death. But fear also sharpened the mind. Over generations, humans became experts at spotting predators earlier than prey did. They learned to read subtle clues. The silence of birds, the twitch of grass, the faintest scent on the wind. This hyper-awareness became their shield. And there was strength in numbers. Alone, one human was defenseless. Together, a group could shout, throw stones, wave branches, even bluff predators into retreat. No weapons yet, but the seeds of strategy were already forming. Living under the predator's shadow wasn't just a curse. It shaped us. It forced humans to cooperate, to stay alert, to innovate. Without that constant pressure, we may never have developed the sharp instincts that eventually allowed us to turn the tables. So what truly kept early humans alive in a world that seemed determined to wipe them out? Not muscles, not claws, not even luck. The answer was each other. Humans are social by nature. But in those ancient days, it wasn't just preference, it was necessity. Alone, survival was almost impossible. In groups, even small ones, the odds improved dramatically. Picture a mother carrying her child while the rest of the group gathers fruit. A young hunter spots danger on the horizon, and without words, signals the others to scatter. At night, the group forms a circle, the strongest on the outside, children huddled safely inside. These weren't just random acts of kindness. They were survival strategies. Born from the bonds of blood and kinship. Food, too, was shared. One person couldn't eat an entire carcass alone before it rotted. But shared among many, it meant strength for the group. Those who gave today might receive tomorrow. That balance kept the tribe alive. Even grief had survival value. Imagine losing a member to predators. The mourning wasn't just emotional, it reinforced the importance of unity, reminding everyone of the stakes. Cooperation also meant innovation. A single person noticing a poisonous berry could pass that lesson down. A child observing adults could mimic survival skills. Knowledge pooled within the group, growing stronger with every generation. These social bonds, fragile yet powerful, were humanity's first real weapon. While other creatures relied on claws or fangs, humans relied on trust. And in time, that trust built families, clans, and eventually civilizations. If predators weren't enough, the environment itself was a merciless enemy. Think of scorching sun on bare skin, heat waves shimmering across the plains. Early humans had no clothing, no sunscreen, nothing but sweat to cool them. And yet, sweat, our humble, overlooked ability, gave us one of the greatest advantages in the animal kingdom. While other creatures overheated, humans could keep moving. In blistering heat, persistence hunting became possible. But the cold was worse. Imagine night falling, temperatures plunging, wind cutting through your skin like knives. With no fire, no furs, survival meant huddling close, sharing body heat, or seeking caves and overhangs to block the wind. Babies were wrapped in leaves, pressed to their mother's chest for warmth. Rain brought another danger, floods. Rivers swelled, drowning the unprepared. Storms lashed against shelters, tearing apart fragile nests of branches. Lightning split the skies, sparking fires that terrified and fascinated in equal measure. And then there were the insects, relentless, biting, swarming. Mosquitoes spread disease. Flies swarmed around wounds. Ants invaded shelters. Every climate brought its own torments. But humans adapted. They smeared mud to keep cool, or to repel insects. They migrated with seasons, following herds or escaping drought. They watched the sky, the stars, the winds, learning patterns, reading nature's clock. Weather tested them again and again, and each test forced humans to become tougher, smarter, more resourceful. In enduring the storm, they became something more than prey. They became survivors. For countless generations, survival was a game of endurance. But even in the toolless world, change was brewing. Small, accidental discoveries that would alter humanity forever. Picture a hungry human smashing a bone against a rock to crack the marrow inside. The rock chips, leaving a sharp edge. That edge cuts skin more easily than fingernails. A spark of possibility flickers. Or imagine digging for roots with a stick. At first, it's just a branch. But with repeated use, the tip hardens. The bark strips away. Suddenly, the stick works better than bare hands. These weren't tools in the full sense, not yet. But they were hints, whispers of the future. Humans were beginning to see beyond what nature gave them. They were beginning to shape their world, not just endure it. Even fire, terrifying, untouchable, left its mark. After lightning storms, humans might approach smoldering branches, curious. Some may have carried burning sticks, not yet able to create fire, but learning to borrow it from nature. Curiosity was awakening, and with it, imagination. For the first time, humans weren't just reacting to the world. They were starting to ask, what if? These sparks of change set the stage for the most important leap in human history. The dawn of tools was near. It began quietly, not with fanfare, not with sudden genius, but with small, almost accidental moments that grew into revolution. Somewhere, perhaps 2.5 million years ago, one of our ancestors picked up a stone and struck it against another. A fragment broke off, sharp, jagged, dangerous. In that instant, the first true tool was born. That sharp edge could slice through meat, crack bones for marrow, cut plants more cleanly. It was a game changer. For the first time, humans had an extension of their will. Flesh and bone were no longer the limit. The old Owen tools, as we call them today, were crude but revolutionary. A handful of flakes, each one sharper than any tooth humans possessed. With them, scavenging became safer, eating became easier, survival became more certain. Over time, humans grew bolder. They shaped stones deliberately, striking them with skill instead of chance. They used them to scrape hides, to cut wood, to dig more efficiently. Every new use opened doors that had been closed for millennia. And then came fire. At first borrowed, later mastered. Fire was the second great leap. It cooked food, making it safer and easier to digest. It provided warmth, extending survival into colder climates. It lit the night, driving back predators. With tools and fire, the balance shifted. Humans were no longer prey, cowering in the dark. They were hunters, builders, inventors. The long night of helplessness was ending. The dawn of tools wasn't just about sharp stones. It was about the birth of human ingenuity. It marked the moment when we stopped merely surviving and began shaping the world to our will. And from that dawn came everything that followed: agriculture, cities, science, technology. The story of humanity began not with smartphones or skyscrapers, but with a stone struck against another. From flesh and bone to fire and steel, it all started here. The moment our ancestors first held power in their hands.